Hello everyone, welcome along to Sports Pizza. Glad to have you join us on what is another rendezvous of all the biggest sporting headlines from across the world. We're glad to have you join us, and of course it's always a pleasure to bring the stories your way. Be a part of the show as always on social media. Hit us up on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube and Facebook at Sports Pizza. We're going to touch base with lots of stories from the home-based front. Pretty much we'll talk about the Super Eagles who are not doing so well, but of course we'll touch base with the return of the NPFL match day 10 as things currently stand. It's back up to the race to the finish. Who will win the NPFL this season remains to be seen, because we've seen some great performances in the first half of the season. We'll also touch base with what's happening across European football as managerial firings continue to take center stage. Antonio Conte, of course, back in Bayern Munich, also Thomas Tuchel doing great stuff there as far as getting a new job. So there's lots to dig our teeth into as far as Sports Pizza goes today. We'll take a first break. When we come back, we'll get into the stories. Welcome back to Sports Pizza. Glad to have you join us, and it's glad to have Falana Adeni in the studio. Falana, it's good to have you here. I don't call you Falana always, but when I call you that, you know it's going to be a good day. Great to have you here. How's everything been?
Well, it's been fun, except that the Super Eagles did not give us something to smile about.
Yeah.
It's been a while we smiled about the Super Eagles.
I tell you what, even a win against Guinea-Bissau in the second leg would not quite guarantee that. But regardless, we are still in a good place to qualify for next year's Cup of Nations in Cote d'Ivoire. Let's talk about that game in Abuja. Let's start off with that because, look, we thought that the hiatus, we've been enjoying club football for quite some time. And we thought that the players had enough time to go away from the disappointment of not going to the World Cup, come back and recharge, and give us a performance to smile about. Victor Osimhen, 25 goals in Europe so far this season. What about players like Alex Iwobi, who's having a great time at Everton this year? Pretty much a changed team, so to speak. But we didn't see anything changing about the performance. It was maybe even worse than what we saw the last time they played in Abuja. So what was that down to? Because I have the opinion that they could have played that game for another 2 hours and we would still not have won the game. Matter of fact, Guinea-Bissau probably have scored another goal. So what needs to change for us going forward?
Well, first thing first, I think whoever appointed Jose Pacero as the manager of the Super Eagles needs to be arrested. That's the first thing. Because it looks like Jose Pacero looks like a clueless man. Not that he looks like a clueless man, he's actually a clueless man. Like, he doesn't know what he's supposed to do. When we saw the game against Guinea-Bissau on Friday, it was just all about get the ball to Victor Osimhen and expect Victor Osimhen to do something. I mean, Guinea-Bissau probably would have done their own work, and they know that the most informed player right now in Africa and maybe in Europe, is Victor Osimhen. So let's do our work. We know they're going to look for Victor Osimhen with all the balls, and that was what happened in the first half and the second half. And Guinea-Bissau did their own work. Let's stop the ball from getting to Victor Osimhen, and we will definitely beat the Super Eagles. And that was what they did. And it's a certain that after the first half, our coach did not see how he could make changes. And that was the mistake we made last year at the World Cup qualifier against Ghana. After the first half, Austin Egaroy did not know that this are what he should do in the second half. And that was what happened again against
Speaking about Victor Osimhen, I mean, when you have a player like that on the pitch, right? The one thing you need to do is get the ball to him, service. But every time his hands were in the air, he wasn't getting service. And I'm not sure if you've seen a viral video on social media about fans telling him, stop complaining, just play. But honestly, when you watch the game back, and I've had the time to go back and watch the game a couple of times, I think that no striker in that team will score goals, regardless of who you are. Because every time Samuel Chukwueze gets the ball, he cuts back inside, wants to have a shot on his own. Every time Moses Simon, who I've got to say, needs to take a look at his performances, came on in the second half for Ademola Lookman, and I always expect that substitutes need to affect the game in a different way. But he came on and I thought, we should have just left Lookman on. So those two players are inverted wingers. They don't want to cross the ball. They want to play, have their own shot on target. But the most disappointing thing for me, talk to me about this, is the lack of transitioning. From the centre back to Wilfred to the attack, it was just non-existent. And I think that bar the performance, that is the most disappointing thing.
Definitely. That
we can't string passes together. I've heard people talk about the pitch, but I said the same thing. Look, Guinea-Bissau played on the same pitch, so that cannot be an excuse.
I mean, when we give excuses of pitch, you look at the Ivorian team. I mean, it's not like their pitch is better than what we have in Nigeria here. I mean, we saw what they did. We look at the Cameroonians. We look at the Ghanaian team. I mean, these are teams that they don't have better pitch than Nigeria. But
I mean, the only place you find better pitches than what we have in Nigeria: Morocco, Egypt, Tunisia.
Exactly, and those West African teams, they don't give excuses that it's because of the pitch. That is why we did win. I mean, one thing that was very, very obvious in the game against Guinea-Bissau, the Super Eagles were not able to string 2-3 passes together. At some point, a friend of mine asked me that, wait, is it Guinea-Bissau that's on white jersey and the Super Eagles on green jersey? I said, no. I mean, they were able to cut our defense, a lot of time. They could have scored more than one if only they were calm in front of goal. I think, and it's a sad thing if Bright Samuel Osai, who is the right back, was our best player on the day. I mean, that tells you a lot about the team. And so I don't know what the coach can do going forward. He needs to find a way to connect the midfield and the attack. That was not there on Friday. And it's high time we stop playing Kelechi Iheanacho as an attacking midfielder. He's not an attacking midfielder.
One thing's for sure, lots of things have to change. But I was just going to wrap up with this point. Just got to be clear that we have now played 7 games under Joseph Peseiro. He's lost 5 of those games, hasn't he? We haven't kept any clean sheets in that space of time, so that is a problem there. Do we have to get to a point as a nation, as a footballing nation, where we call players up not because they are in form, but because they fit into the team? Because what I see us doing is we're doing the same thing all over again. So when you watch the England team, for example, I'm not trying to compare England with Nigeria. Harry Maguire gets called up every time, right? And that's because the manager knows that he fits the way his teams play. So he doesn't call it the most informed defender in the country. And Harry Maguire is not the most informed player in England, right? Definitely. But he calls him up because he knows that this is how I play. I play 3 centre-backs and Maguire plays, or I play 2 centre-backs, Maguire fits the way I play. Calvin Phillips fits the way I play. Calvin Phillips gets a call-up ahead of James Ward-Prowse, for example. And there's a reason that happens, because the manager has an idea of what he wants to do with the team. So have we gotten to that point where you mentioned Kelechi Iheanacho, scoring goals for Leicester, but not fit for purpose for Nigeria, right? Ademola Lookman scores goals for Atalanta, but maybe not best suited to Nigeria, to our team. So do we need to get to that point where we call players who might not be the best players, in terms of, player for player, but because they can do a job? Can we get a winger that can cross the ball? Can we stop calling a player like Chukwueze because he's the most informed player? I mean, he's doing incredible numbers. I think he scored 10 goals and 10 assists, this season. So is that what we need to get to build this team going forward, as opposed to just announcing a team of superstars because they are informed in their club?
I think what we need to do first is let's look at the edge. I'm talking about the coach of the Super Eagles. We don't even know the pattern that the coach wants to play. I think with Gareth Southgate, you know his pattern. He definitely plays.
No, I say that because regardless of who the coach is, if a team comes out and you don't see a player who's in form in Nigeria, in Europe, the fans are going to call for the coach's head. Mm-hmm. So do we need to get to that point as football fans where we accept that we're not always going to call the most informed players, but the players who can do a job for our team?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still going back to the coach. When we know that as fans, we know we can trust this coach, that he's capable, he knows what he's doing. I think we will get to that stage that, okay, regardless of who he calls into the team, he knows why he's calling this person. He's not calling this person just because everyone wants him to call this person. He's calling this person because he's going to do a better job than the next player. I mean, if you look at, just like I said, in England, we have better defenders than Maguire this season. But he keeps calling Maguire, and he has been...
And he keeps performing for him.
I mean, and so the fans are happy with that. So I think we need to get to that stage where we need to trust the coach first. That, okay, this coach knows what he's doing. I'm afraid at this point, we can't do that right now with the Super Eagles coach. So that is why it got to a stage we were comfortable with who Genetro was calling for the Super Eagles, because we know they are going to get the job done, regardless of whether they're informed or not. But right now, that is not the case. So I think we need to get to a stage of trusting the coach first. Then whoever he calls into the team,
right,
we'll accept it.
We're still going to qualify for the AFCON, aren't we? We have to, right? We have to, right? Super Eagles with 6 points from those 2 games, and hopefully we can qualify in the next couple of international windows. We'll take, take a break from Super Eagles pretty much because, we're still railing from that defeat to Guinea-Bissau, right? Let's get away from that. Now let's touch base with the NPFL, which is pretty much bread and butter. We've missed it for about a month due to the Nigerian general elections. Back on the grind with Bedell Insurance against Eimba, out there in about 1-1. They're still unbeaten after 10 matches. It looks as if, though, this is the race to the finish now. 8 more games to go, and you've got to start winning games if you're not winning games already. If you take a look at Group A, which sees Bedell Insurance, Akwa United in second place, Plateau in third place, Akwa, speaking of which, also won their game, 2-0 against Shooting Stars. Plateau also got a win against Gombe United, 2-0. Eimba need to start climbing up that table pretty fast. They've not won in their last 2 games, and no surprises there. They played Bedell Insurance. But are you excited to see the NPFL back on?
Definitely, and I'm excited that Bedell Insurance, resumed from where they left. 10 games in the league and 3 draws, 7 victories for you, and for you to have gone to perceived difficult ground to get results. It's something. I think they defeated Akwa United the first game of the season away from home, and they also played a draw with Eimba. So I don't think football can happen, but I don't think if you don't lose against Akwa United and Eimba, I'm afraid I don't see anything beating them this season, especially away from home. Maybe when they play Remo Stars, Kenya, then maybe the Remo Stars can be there. But it's looking like Bedell Insurance, they're getting all the necessary support they need from the Edo State government, and it's showing in the team. They're very, very comfortable when they travel away from home, and I think that is one thing that our club side in Nigeria also need to look at, because when you travel and you're not jet lag, right? It show in your game, right? So comfortability is one thing that is working for Bedell Insurance this season, and I hope they keep getting the support because they are playing good football. And Amade, for crying out loud, he's a top player form right now. He's a player that he doesn't need too many chances. 1, 2 is okay for him, and a good one for them. I'm very sure they will sing on their way back to Benin.
Definitely, the Benin Arsenal, as they are called, Bedell Insurance, continue to potentially match towards that championship playoff spots, which pretty much would mean they are in pole position to go ahead and win the NPFL season when it finishes, but still a long way from that. The league just resumed for the second half of the season. What about Rivers United, who managed to get a draw against Abia Warriors? They won their game against Enugu Rangers a couple days before. So, look, they haven't done well in the league so far, just 1 win in the last 5 games, but they're doing well on the continent. So, what does Coach Stanley Guma do? I mean, obviously his priorities would be on the continent because, what a story it would be for him to win the NPFL title the previous season and go ahead and win the CAF Confederations Cup. And there's a chance that they could do it, right? But 1 win in the last 5 games, it feels as if, though, they're saved by the fact that the likes of Lobby Stars, Sunshine Stars, Abia Warriors, Tornadoes, Enugu Rangers are not firing. So, every time they drop a point, they can guarantee that, Lobby Stars, as we saw this weekend, also drop points.
I think Stanley Guma is watching too much of Chelsea's game. Not doing well. Doing well.
Yeah, Rivers United wear blue as well, so might as well be mirroring Chelsea.
But just like you said, I think the only thing working for them so far that has worked for them so far in the league is the other teams, in the Group B, Lobby Stars, Enugu Rangers, they're also not doing very well. So for what we have in Group A, if
Group A has just as a fact, Group A has 6 former champions. So that is a Royal Rumble.
I'm very sure if Rivers United were in Group A, probably they'll be maybe 7th, 8th, or 9th position. But they have the group.
They'll actually be 3rd. Because they've got 19 points, right?
But then again, the games will be more difficult than what they're having in Group B.
That's
no
for sure.
disrespect to the teams in Group B. So I think they need to start looking for a way they can merge both together. Talking about playing in the league and on the continent.
I tell you what, though, I actually love the abridged league. I really do. I think that it, for some reason, it just works. You know, you have to prosecute 18 games,
18 games,
and
yeah.
you know you're in the playoff places. I think I love it.
Yeah,
honestly,
I think I love it also, but I'm pretty sure they will revert back to the usual 20.
I want the NPFL to go back to consider having a north versus south. You know, that way you can manage finances better. You don't have to travel up north, and we have that playoff.
Then we have a playoff,
We'll have a playoff, and that's it. You know, just the way the MLS do it, the way the NBA do it.
I think that's a good one. Maybe IMC should hire you.
No. I've said it on my radio show for years, right? And hopefully someone is listening. Right then, great show here, and of course we talked about the Super Eagles who haven't been in the best set of form. We also touched base with the NPFL in the first part of the show. When part 2 returns, we'll touch base with what's happening across European football. We did mention Antonio Conte leaving his club, and Bayern Munich also getting a new manager. Find out who that is next up. Welcome back to Sports Pizza. Glad to have you still be around with us here on Sports Pizza. And of course, we're having a great time. Falan and Dini is in the studio. Good to have this chance to speak about all these things with you as far as sports go. Interestingly, football has been the dominating headline today, and that's great because we have touched base with the Super Eagles in the first part, and also with the Nigerian Premier Football League season 2023, and it's back on the way, second half. So be a part of that. Watch when you can. Right then, let's touch base with Antonio Conte and Tottenham, because last week or 2 weeks ago, we saw a very riveting interview given to English media, and he was pretty much, I mean, for a manager's experience as that, he knew what he was doing all along. He knew that when you go in and have a go at the players, calling everybody who needed to be called in, it was one or two outcomes. It's either the board decides to say, you know what, we're going to trust this club in your care completely, and because you've talked big, deliver big results, or no, we can't have that. That's insubordination, so to speak. Both on your boss's part and as they say nowadays, throwing players under the bus. The latter was the case. He's left Tottenham by mutual consent, as we've known in the last couple of hours. Good decision by Tottenham?
Well, for me, I think good decision from them. This is not the first time that we're having Antonio Conte, have a go as players, and of course, just his employers. Did the same thing while he was at Chelsea. I think it's only Italy that I don't think.
Even at Juventus, the story is that he said, "Look, this is what I want, and they're not giving me. I'm out."
Same thing happened at Inter Milan when he won the Scudetto. The following season, they told him they were going to sell some of his key players, and they said they were going to sell Lukaku, Achraf Hakimi, and he said,
"I'll see you guys later."
I'll see you guys later. We know the game. We thought he was going to Madrid. Maybe if Madrid won't tolerate this from me, or maybe he was scared of the job, and he got the Tottenham also job. And we thought a bit of fresh air for Tottenham also. They didn't wait for the Jose Mourinho project to really work out well. For me, I feel they didn't wait for Jose Mourinho. So Conte maybe, but the incidents that we've seen for the past 2-3 weeks thereabout, starting with the Richarlison interview and Conte.
It always felt like it was coming.
Yeah, it felt like it was coming. And when he granted his own interview after Richarlison, a friend of mine said, "Yeah, now Conte is coming. Now don't worry, the next one to something is definitely going to happen again." And because it happened after the Southampton game, throwing his players under the bus and telling that his players are selfish. And I don't know. I think Daniel Levy doesn't like that. He doesn't like to be questioned. But I don't know what Tottenham Hotspur can do again. But I'm very sure Antonio Conte will get another job.
Of course, he would.
He's the top manager.
Roy Hodgson just got a job at great respects to him. Got a job at Crystal Palace. He's 76, right?
I don't think Conte will go that low.
The question I believe is, can Spurs still finish in the top 4? There's still plenty to play for this season. Lots of games to play in the Premier League. 2 points clear of Newcastle in 4th place, and just 1 point behind Manchester United in 3rd place. They played 2 more games, it has to be said. They've got 49 points from 28 matches. So, look, if they don't make the top 4, they look back and say, when you got fired, he was in the top 4, right? Just like Jose Mourinho, when he got fired, he was in the final, and they don't go on to win it. This will be self-sabotage. I think wrong decision to fire him. What do you make of it?
Well, when they look at everything, I mean, just like you said, 2 games ahead of Manchester United, but 2 points behind Manchester, a point behind Manchester United, and also I think Newcastle have games in hand, you know, to
have 2 games in hand as well. But I mean, games in hand don't really. You have to play those games and win.
Yeah, but then again, Dan Levy has looked at everything and feels that. I mean, they said 10 games to the end of the season. They don't want to take, they don't want to take chances, that, okay, let's leave Antonio Conte and let's see what can happen. Because if I'm to be sincere right now, I think it's going to go downwards if they have left Antonio Conte. And so that was what Daniel Levy, that's what he has tried to stop by firing him. I mean, last season, they were not close to the Champions League. They hired Conte. I mean, took them to the Champions League.
And he won he got into Champions League. So, look, I think he can say that in the end, I delivered the top 4 finish for you guys, regardless. And nowadays, in the Premier League, that is almost like a trophy, if not a trophy, right? Right, let's get away from that now. Let's touch base with, by the way, Antonio Conte left Tottenham, and Christian Stellini would be the manager alongside Ryan Mason till the end of the season. So keep an eye on the Premier League's race to the top 4 for sure. Let's cross base.
Maybe Nigeria can look at Antonio Conte.
Look, we're paying reportedly we're paying Pesero $70,000, and we cannot pay. I hear they're owing him salary, so I'm sure we cannot afford Conte. Don't worry about it, right? Someone said last time they spoke to Jose Mourinho. I was like, Jose who? Stop lying. Right. Let's touch base with Bayern Munich, who also were cooking the storm of their own, so to speak. This time, the manager didn't give any interviews that were, riveting or some sort of a tirade. But Bayern Munich thought Nagelsmann, well, second in the Bundesliga behind Borussia Dortmund, quarterfinals, Champions League. Not the worst place to be if you're a football club like Bayern Munich, but they thought, we have a young man called Tuchel who was back at Borussia Dortmund some time ago, and it's best if we get him now than wait till the end of the season. The report is that Julian Nagelsmann had a fallout with Manuel Neuer. It's been back and forth all season, and also a fallout with maybe or fell out of favor, so to speak, with some of the bosses at Bayern Munich. And if you know Bayern Munich very well, and I imagine that you know a lot about them, is that the former players are very involved with the running of the club, e.g. Oliver Kahn. So in the end, he had to go. Nagelsmann has been there for less than a year, it has to be said. But something they've mentioned is not getting the best out of key players. Sadio Mane, Thomas Müller, some of these important players who are there at the club. Is that what it's down to? Because I think it's not a footballing decision.
I also feel it's not a footballing decision. I think it has to do with maybe not saying yes to some top level guys in the club, and when you are a leader of a particular institution, maybe you want
need to play the politics a little bit better.
Exactly, but I think Julian Nagelsmann is not that man. He's young. I mean, 35 to 60 about. So maybe it's not someone that wants to dance to the tune of everybody. And at Bayern, that would definitely not work out well. I mean, he has been fired. He's a top manager, and just like you said, maybe Bayern felt that. Well, there's a top manager in the market, Thomas Tuchel. So,
and we don't want to lose him to Real Madrid
or maybe Tottenham as well at the end of the season, because there were rumors that Tottenham as well are looking at
or PSG
or maybe PSG exactly. So that was why they decided to move quickly, with Thomas Tuchel. It's a sad one, but then again, managers are hired to be fired. That is one thing about football. I mean, you don't expect a manager to stay for long in football again. I mean, step forward as a one guy, and what's his name, Sir Alex Ferguson. But these days, managers are hired, so hired to be fired. So I don't know, but I think it's an internal problem. It's an internal problem. I don't think it's for football business, because they're winning. It's not that they're not winning. They're winning. They are scoring goals. As a matter of fact, Bayern are the only team with 100% record in the UEFA Champions League, and you don't want to bet against them beating Manchester City prior to sacking Julian Nagelsmann. But now that they've sacked him, I think City will probably feel that this is a club. Maybe not necessarily in disarray, but not in the same form they were when Julian Nagelsmann was the coach. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed to that one to see what's going to happen. But before then, it was tilting towards Bayern beating Man City. But now that Nagelsmann has gone, we don't know what to expect with Thomas Tuchel.
Yeah. Well, Thomas Tuchel, now the manager there. And look, I don't know who writes these stories and who makes the subplots, but guess who they play next Bayern Munich? Borussia Dortmund, a club he was at for a couple of years.
I'm
and
looking forward to that.
These things happen all the time. Dortmund are currently topping the table there. Is there a chance that Dortmund can win that league? If Dortmund beat Bayern Munich,
that takes them
this
4
weekend,
points.
that takes them to 4 points clear.
4 points clear.
Then Tuchel could be under pressure all of a sudden and be like, we need to fire you too.
Well, because one of the reasons they gave was that they are not playing very well, in the Bundesliga. I mean, since the league resumed from World Cup, I think the two form teams in the Bundesliga are Schalke 04 and Borussia Dortmund. They've not lost in the league since the league resumed. So I think that's why Bayern are looking at. They're very, very inconsistent in the league.
Yeah.
Very, very inconsistent. Teams you expect Bayern to beat. I mean, they find a way to drop points.
Yeah.
At worst case scenario, even lose against them. So I think that is why. Maybe that's another reason why they fired him. But most of what we're getting is there's an external issue. That is why they fired him.
Welcome back to Sports Pizza. I'll tell you what, I totally enjoyed this quick 30 minutes dash here on Sports Pizza. And Falan Adini has been here all the way. Always a pleasure to talk to you. You are one of the finest ones around. So be a part of the show as well, as you are one of the finest football or sports fans across the world. Hit us up on our email. Let us know your suggestions. And of course, share those opinions on social media as well. The handles remain Sports Pizza across all social media platforms. I want to thank you very much indeed. We'll see you next week, same time, same place. My name is Yubi, and so do it. We'll see you very soon. Bye-bye.